Right, so what are we going to do today in the next 45 minutes or so? And I've got quite a bit of stuff to cover. I will be skipping a few slides in the interest of time. Otherwise, we're going to be here till Christmas, and I'm sure that you have plans. So we're going to talk about the psychology of decision. Why? Because the psychology of decision, or choice, as you wish, is important because it helps us understand why we make the decisions that we make, why we make the choices that we make, but it also helps us to understand why we don't make the right choices at times. But apart from all that, and probably most importantly, it helps us help our clients, our friends, our colleagues make better choices. In many respects and in many occasions, we are overwhelmed by choices. Sometimes we do not know where to go. So let me start this session with a little story. And this little story goes back to the year 210 BC. And this is about a commander called Shang Yu. And my Chinese is not very good, as you can see. And he led his troops across the Yangtze River to attack the army of the Qin dynasty. So they paused near the riverbanks for the night, and his troops woke up in the morning, and much to their surprise, they found, to their horror, that their ships were burning. They hurried, to their feet to fight off their attackers, but soon discovered that it was Shang Yu himself who had set their ships on fire, and that he had also ordered all the cooking pots to be crushed. Shang Yu explained to his troop that without the pots and the ships, they had no other choice but to fight their way to victory or die. I'm sure that did not earn General Shang Yu's a place on the Chinese Army's Christmas card list, but it did have a tremendous focusing effect on his troops. Grabbing their lances and bows and spears, or whatever it is they used, they charged ferociously against the enemy, and they won 9 consecutive battles. Obviously, they completely obliterated the main force units of the Qing dynasty. So Shang Yu's story is remarkable because it is completely against normal human behavior, whatever normal human behavior is. Normally, we cannot stand the idea of closing the doors to our alternatives. Had most of us, normal human beings, and I think that we're all, well, you're all normal, I'm not so sure about myself, but that's a different story. If you had been in their place, we would have sent out part of our army to tend to the ships, just in case we needed them to escape, to retreat and escape. And we would have asked others to cook meals, just in case the army needed to stay there for a few weeks and needed some food. Still others would have been instructed to start pounding rice to make paper scrolls, just in case we needed a parchment on which to sign the terms of the surrender of the mighty Qin. It was highly unlikely in the first place, but there you go. Now, in the context of today's world, we work just as feverishly to keep all our options open. We buy the expandable computer system just in case we need all those high-tech software, new versions, and all the bells and whistles. We buy insurance policies that are offered with the plasma, or whatever it is nowadays, super high definition television, just in case our wonderful television goes blank. We keep our children in every activity we can imagine, just in case, they pick up something from one of the activities. And we buy a luxury SUV, well, not me, but probably some of you, not because we really expect to drive off the highway, but just in case we do, in case, very remote prospect probably, we end up with a computer that has more functions than we need, or a stereo with unnecessarily expensive warranty, or, more, space between the wheels and the axles in case we want to go off-roading. The truth is that this is a fool's game, and one that we are remarkably good as human beings at playing. So what does this mean? Well, we're totally irrational, okay? But our ability to make decisions when presented with two or more options can be difficult. The psychology of choice explores why we subconsciously make the decisions that we do, what motivates those decisions, and what needs these decisions are meant to satisfy. Let me give you an example. I don't know in your countries, but I remember many years ago when you wanted to get one of these, a mobile phone. You went to the mobile phone shop, Vodafone, O2, or whatever it was at that time. I said, yes, good morning, sir. Can I help you? Absolutely. Yes, you can. I'd like a mobile phone. Sure. What mobile phone would you like? And you say, I don't know, Samsung, iPhone, whatever it is. Sure, sir. Well, the cost of the phone, you've got to pay an upfront cost of £100. Up to there, we're great friends. Everything is absolutely going swimmingly well. Okay. Is that okay with you, sir? Absolutely. Like the guy who jumped off the 10th floor said as he went past the 5th floor. So far, so good. Okay. Then comes the problem. Right. How much do I have to pay per month? Right. Here we go. Well, we have the Super Saver plan, which is, sort of 5p a call, and then you pay only for the first 20 gigabytes of data. Then we have a Super Plan Saver Plus, which you pay 5.5p if you're sitting down, but if you're standing up, you pay a little bit more. And then, of course, you have the extremely wonderful plan for high users of data, but only if you live in the Northern Hemisphere and you're awake between 2 a.m. And look, it just became so complicated that people had no idea what they were buying. Fortunately, the world has changed, and a lot of marketing people have become a lot more savvy and decided, you know what, we cannot confuse clients, because if we confuse them and they don't understand, they're going to go somewhere else. And here's the thing, and this is one takeaway that I want everybody to get from today. Everybody is a salesperson. It doesn't matter whether your job or your title is sales manager, sales director, senior salesperson, account manager, whatever you want. We all sell things. You will sell your skills, you will sell your knowledge. You could say, but Robert, come on, you're not a salesperson for Hult. Yes, I am. I have to sell Hult's reputation, which I hope I do relatively well. I have to sell the image that the company wants to portray, and so on and so forth. So in a way, we're salespeople. So this thing of I don't sell is no longer true. And as a salesperson, you will have to help your clients. You're going to have to help your colleagues sell an idea, sell a proposal, or whatever it may be. Now, my background is, essentially, sort of consulting, at least over the last 30 years. I worked for a very large organization called Accenture, where I was global learning solutions lead for 12 years of my life. And before that, I worked for Fujitsu, or the training division of Fujitsu. So I'm largely from a consulting background. And when you are in consulting, you're doing selling. And when I put proposals to my clients, and I, either presented them to them, orally, and they started looking at me like I had two heads, I knew that I had a problem, and I was not going to help them make the right decision. People will not make a decision on something they don't understand. So let us move on and see how this works. Choice covers both the capacity to control people and events, and an underlying belief in the possibility of such control. So this is what I mean. Being able to rule your environment gives power to self-determination, even for little babies. And one study, researchers attached strings to the arms of infants. It's not a cruel thing. So before you say, oh, poor little babies. No, it's not cruel, I promise. And some of them were as young as 4 months. When they moved their arms, music played. The babies grew sad and angry when the researchers actually removed their strings and they could no longer make music play. The music continued sporadically. So they did have a little bit of music. However, the main problem here is that wanting to choose comes naturally to us, though it isn't linked to any distinct biological advantage. It is the way that we are. And this extends from school, work, and even political systems. How many people live or lived in political systems where they had very little choice? They felt very, very disgruntled. So without choice, as zoo animals show as well, even someone else's decisions may set you up in luxury. You will not be happy. Having a measure of control makes people happiest. A nursing home, old people's home, let some patients decide when to watch movies and which plants they wanted to have. And after 6 months, those who had perceived or who had more perceived choice were happier and more alert, and it turned out were less likely to have died. Well, died sooner, of course. So, sort of we all die at some stage, I think. Now, there is a cultural aspect to this because culture does dictate the need for choice. And because you're going to be working, hopefully, if you're as lucky as I am, in a very multicultural and diverse group environment, which is the way that the world is wagging at the moment, fortunately, you will have to understand that. Now, for 5,000 years, young women met their husbands for the first time on their wedding days, after their parents arranged the marriage. Now, many contemporary people do not understand how anyone could let others handle that vital decision. Some faiths still prescribe many matters for their believers. Researchers expected members of these fundamentalist faiths to feel more hopelessness, pessimism, and depression than people with more choice. But instead, funnily enough, or ironically enough, they showed less. And here's why. Because depending on culture, religion, and home life, people grow up with varying stories about the nature of God, of control, and choice. And such inculcated values, whether you are religious or not, makes no difference, dictate how they interpret self-determination and how much choice they want. The collective way of life that dominated this sort of world culture through history provides a community context for arranged marriage. Romantic love always existed, but it didn't get linked to marriage until individualism emerged in Western society. Research with couples in either arranged or love-based marriages shows that high love scores appear in early romantic marriage, but love diminishes over time. And lower love scores appear early in arranged marriages, but here you are, love increases over time. Research shows that anyway, you fall out of chemical love. That's for another time, but you fall out of chemical love about 13 months, or within the period of 13 months. That's when your brain, sort of stops being hijacked by all these, hormones that the brain generates when you are initially in love. And you all, I'm sure, remember when you are on the phone to your girlfriend, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you've just started going out together, and said, "Darling, I'm very, very sleepy. You want to put the phone down?" And he said, "Okay, darling, I'll speak to you tomorrow. Okay, bye." You hang up. No. You hang up first, darling. No. Come on, you hang up. Okay, do you remember that game? Right. Well, it only lasts for about 12 months. Trust me, I've been married 20 years. I don't do that with my wife. Right. So this leads us to the other aspect of cultural element, which is whether you come from a collective culture or an individualist culture. A culture's degree of individualism or collectivism, for that matter, helps explain choice worldwide. Anglo-American students, for example, did better schoolwork when given personal choices. Asian American kids did better when they thought they were doing what their mothers had picked out for them. Western kids learn to consider their own wishes first. It's a more Socratic society. That's the way it is. We can make choices using an individual perspective centered on personal interests, traits, and preferences. Whereas in other in other cultures, sort of more Confucian, sort of cultures, sort of the choices tend to be less frequent. It doesn't mean that they have no choices at all, but it means that the perception of choice is very different, which makes a fascinating study if you want to delve that in a little bit more detail. So defining yourself with choice, this is one of the things where choice becomes very important. And the way that people interpret consumerism's choices has changed over the last few decades. Buying, I'll tell you, when I was young, was very matter of fact, but it has been transformed into collecting markers of personal identity. It's like an ethos of independence, of choice took over. Getting noticed replaced blending in. And choice became an exercise of personal definition. Now, people with, everywhere face utterly new alternatives, options for family structure, religion, and even eye color. Guys, you can change you can wear tinted contact lenses. And these let you express yourself in countless ways. Now, along with freedom, which is also increasing in many collective societies, much to the horror of the older generations. So along with this freedom, these decisions carry the burden of defining a person's self-image. Three challenges make this hard. First of all, people believe that they are more unique than they really are. That's number one. Number two, they want a consistent vision of themselves. And number three, they want it to mesh with the views that other peoples have from them. Okay, so what's the solution to this? Well, very easy. Sorry, my chair is almost falling over there. Try to see your identity as ever changing, so that choosing helps discover yourself. It is not about who I am, but it is who I am at the moment. And this is interesting because when these things happen, something that is called cognitive dissonance breaks in. And this is when your brain holds these two competing ideas, behaviors, beliefs, and this creates conflict. Let me give you an example rather than give you all the spiel. Cognitive dissonance causes when, for example, you have announced to your colleagues that you're going to go on a strict, healthy diet. And then you go up to, I don't know, McDonald's and scoff up, sort of 2 Big Macs and 5 milkshakes, okay? That is cognitive. I know I really shouldn't be doing this. Smokers get into cognitive dissonance a lot because they say, well, I shouldn't be smoking because I want to be healthy, but here I am, sort of smoking. The problem is because it exists because what we think of as our free will really isn't truly free. Sometimes we are at the mercy of advertisers and social media, etc., etc., etc. And some things just simply become normalized. For example, the maximum speed limit in the UK is 70 miles an hour, not on small roads. I mean, on the motorways, of course. It has always been. It's never been more than that. It's always been 70 miles an hour. Yet over the course of time, presumably by driving at exaggerated speeds, because cars go fast now, and the problem is that you don't feel that they go as fast, we have normalized other numbers in our mind. I mean, I do 85, even 90, on the motorway, and everybody else does it, so we do it, and it's just become, normal. And interestingly enough, a few months ago, I was talking to a policewoman, actually, not that I've been arrested or anything. It was in the context of something completely different, nothing to do with the law. And I said, there you go, these guys speeding. It was in the context of, these scooters, the electric scooters. I said, are these things really allowed? I said, well, we started talking about, I said, well, sort of the problem is, everybody uses them. We can't prosecute anyone. I said, yes, it's like speeding. I said, they say, and she said, yeah, we know everybody speeds on the motorway, but if we can't go around prosecuting everybody who does 80 miles an hour, we'll never be able to do our work. So there you go. It becomes, sort of normalized. So cognitive dissonance, important. I am doing something, but I really shouldn't be doing this. And that starts playing, sort of tricks with your brain. And another good example is anybody who's been to IKEA. Okay, anybody who's been to IKEA knows this. For those of you who have not been to IKEA, when the day that you go, trust me, you'll experience this. Anybody who goes into the IKEA, they go with a mission. And I tell this to my wife sometimes, or she tells me, I said, just stay in the car, honey. I'm going to go there and just buy a packet of serviettes. Okay. £150 later, 2 chests of drawers, 5 lamps, and a cactus later, this is where this bias kicks in. We make decisions that are really not very, very rational. So I'm going to play a little game with you guys now. So be ready, because you're going to have to type on the, sort of in the chat box. I'm going to show you a picture now. I don't know whether they're sweets or balls, but the truth is, it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter. There you go. You should be able to see it in a minute. Now, what I want you to do, the minute it appears, come on, it's taking its jolly good time. There we go. Right, you can see it there. I want you to take a few minutes, and I want you to tell me, guess, how many balls do you think there are there? And type them in the chat box. Come on, how many balls do you think there are? Take a guess. We've got Gurab says 1,000, Gianna says 100,000, Muna says 3,000, Shiba says more than, oh gosh, 500, oh God, a lot of you, 1,500, Arash says 9,000, okay, come on. There are 55, 53 of you. 100,000 says Lynette, Daniela says 20,000, okay. Neha says 0. Should have gone to Spectators. Name. You say 0. I'm sure they're more than 0. Bahar says 1,500, 34,090. That's brutal. That's very good. Okay. More than 700. Okay. 30,000. Iman says 500. Okay. Very good. 500-ish. Okay. The largest green one. All right. Okay. Karin says 10,000. All right. Okay. Okay. So we have a whole load of things. I'm going to show you another one now. Okay. And I'm going to ask you another simple question. I want you again, type the thing, the answers, sort of in the chat box. Okay. It should be with you in a few seconds. There we go. So I want you to tell me, how many Smarties do you think there are here? 60, 70? How many do you think there are? Try the guess. How many Smarties do you think there are? Very good. All right. Okay. I think we have enough answers. So interestingly enough, 73.22, more than I can eat. Yeah, true. More than we should eat. Yeah, very good indeed. Now, interestingly enough, I asked you 2 different questions. In the first one, I said, how many balls or Smarties or sweets do you think there are? We had anything from, I think, 100 to 500,000 or something like that. In the second one, I asked you a slightly different question. I said, how many Smarties do you think there are? And then I added a number, and I said 50 or so 70. And this is very important, because this is one of the biases that we're going to look at in a few minutes. Bias just doesn't refer to a belief or judgment about a specific thing, i.e. that dogs are better than cats. In psychology, bias also refers to behavioral tendencies that affect how we reach conclusions and ultimately make choices. We're going to look at very, very quickly at 4 biases so that you have an idea of what I mean and what this is all about. So, bias. An inclination of temperament outlook, especially a personal and sometimes unreasoned judgment. So let's start with the first one, okay, which is anchoring. And that is exactly what I did. When I mentioned a number, I said 60, 70, all of you, except one person, I think, gave a number between 50 and 100. I think only very few exceeded 100, but by very little. Nobody said 1,000. Nobody said, well, I don't know how deep it is. Maybe there are lots of smarties buried underneath. You can try and rationalize that. I'll talk a little bit about rationalization later on. But the truth is that what led you to say those numbers was not your rationality. It was simply that I threw that anchor. And we tend to anchor our decisions based around the first piece of information that we receive. It can be numbers, it can be anything. Okay. Now, for example, if you're used to paying £10 for a shampoo and you see it in another shop for £8, this reduced price will feel like a deal. However, your friend's local store sells exactly the same shampoo for £12. So she will view the £10 bottle as the deal. Imagine you're looking to buy an iPad on eBay. Before viewing these different items, you limited your search and you know how much you're going to pay. I'm going to talk about that iPad in a minute. So here's the thing. Why is anchoring important? Anchoring is very, very important in negotiations, guys. When you negotiate, sometimes you have to be very conscious on who drops the first anchor. So who was the last person to answer there? Lynette, there we go. Lynette and I, so let's suppose Lynette and I are having a wonderful conversation, and I'm trying to sell this phone to Lynette. I'm not going to sell it to you, but just imagine, all right? Now we can have a go. Look, it's got an X2 500 processor, and I don't know what an inch screen, and it's very fast, and it gives you the exchange rate from the pound to the yen, and it gives you marital advice or whatever it is. I can give you all the stuff, but until somebody drops a figure, I don't know whether Lynette can afford it. And Lynette does not know whether she really wants to buy it or whether it is good value for money. So when you're in a negotiation, the first person who throws that anchor, all your negotiations are going to be around that, which is the danger that a lot of people, or the trap that a lot of people fall into when negotiating with clients. Let me give you an example. As I told you before, I come from a consulting background. I have put more proposals together than I have hairs on my head. Unfortunately, I still have quite a few. Sometimes my client says, oh, Robert, sort of, how much is this going to cost me? And of course, we always give that dreaded answer that all consultants give. When the client comes and asks us, how much is this going to cost me? What do we tell them? What do consultants normally tell them? Can anyone type it in the chat box? Robert, how much is this going to cost me? What is the dreaded answer that consultants always give? Can anyone? It depends. Absolutely correct. And they hate that. Yeah, it depends on the scope of the project. They hate that because, well, it depends on what. So it'll come to a point where you can't simply push out, sort of, it depends, because they're going to start getting a little bit hacked off. So here's the thing that I learned, sort of the years. First of all, if you drop an anchor, say, I don't know, 20,000 quid or whatever it is, everything is going to revolve around 20,000 quid. So if anything goes below 20,000, hey, great, it's good value for money. I got it cheaply. The fact that you've reduced the scope is a different thing. Or if you go over it, oh, wait a minute, you're trying to rip me off. You said 20,000. Why now 25? Well, because the scope has changed. Yeah, but clients, once they get a figure, they're like a dog with a bone. They're not going to let it go. So first of all, give a range. Well, and a big range. It's going to cost you between 0 or between 10,000 and 80,000 pounds. All right, very good. And then you state exactly what they're going to get for that. 10,000 pounds, for example, if you want training done in one language in 2 countries, for example. 80,000 pounds if you want training done in in 20 countries in 5 different languages. Okay, you give people what they get for the money. So, nobody's going to get anchored around one particular figure. Now, the problem is that if you do have a completely different scope, so I say, well, I want all trainers to fly first class, stay in 5-star hotels, and I want all the training delivered, sort of in 50 languages around. Well, you're talking about £500,000, okay? And you have to explain that. Okay. So again, anchoring can be, and even when you go and buy a car or an iPad or whatever it is, that first number is what's going to dominate your choice. The second one is in group. In-group bias is also called the bandwagon effect. And this occurs when a person in a group acts in a similar way to other members of that group, not necessarily making the best choice. And this is because we want to belong. This is that need that we have to belong. So all these things do affect the way that we make choices. Framing. Framing is the way that things are presented to us. Um, for example, one particular study had participants watch a traffic accident, okay? And they were asked the following question: how fast were the cars going when they contacted each other? And as the research went on, the researchers then replaced the verb contacted with verbs like hit, with verbs like bumped, with words like collided, and with words like smashed for different groups of participants. As the intensity of the action verb increased, so did the participants' estimated speeds. They guessed that the cars were going at 31, 34, 38, 39, even 41 miles per hour. So that is why during trials in courts of law, sometimes people object to the words that people use because they may induce that framing bias. All right. Another good way of doing it, advertisers do this all the time. Pharma companies do this all the time. You can come and tell me, Robert, you are absolutely crazy, but you know what? I've got good news for you. I've got these pills, you can take them. Yellow pills, you take 2 a day and you will not be crazy. Now, 2 out of 100 people who take these pills die. Do I want to take them? I don't know. But if you tell me, they have a 98% success rate, yes, it's a very different thing. All right. So again, framing does have a very powerful effect in the way that we make choices. And the last one is loss aversion. When we make a decision, loss aversion does really kick in. I'm gonna pick on Lynette again. Again, she's the last one to write something there. So let us say that Lynette is going to has tickets to go and see her favorite rock band. Okay. And she's going with a friend or someone. All right. So she paid 100 quid each ticket. That's 200 pounds. Is a lot of money. All right. Now, on the day of the concert, she gets up in the morning. She's all excited because she's going to see her favorite rock band. I don't know, say Chris Evans. There you go. Thank you very much. She wants to see Chris Evans. She's going to see Chris Evans. She's so excited. She's out of her mind with excited. Okay. She's not interested in a band. Okay. So off she goes. And she opens a window and it is snowing outside. There's wind. The temperature is minus 15 degrees Celsius. But she's not going to lose 200 smackers that she spent on her tickets. Off she goes driving in the snow with a blizzard in horrendous conditions. And this is because the loss aversion kicks in. People don't like to miss out on things. Loss aversion causes us to feel more strongly about avoiding a loss than receiving a gain, and therefore may lead us to to take a bad, bad decision. And fashion does this all the time. Do you really think you choose fashion consciously? Fashion industries, they predict or they decide many years ahead what the color palettes are going to be before you even know what you want. Marketers who expose buyers to their clothes with heavy media attention are using the powerful mere exposure effect. This trigger is effective because people like products and concepts more with increasing familiarity, okay? Though it only works if they didn't hate them at the outset. So by being slowly introduced to, to things, they start becoming, second nature, and eventually you will end up buying them. So let's go and look a little bit at what we call the reference point, and let's look a little bit at the story of an iPad. So you want to go on an iPad, you see it on eBay or Amazon, whatever it is. And before viewing these different items on this category, you limited your search to include only devices that cost between 100 to 150 pounds. And after viewing the first 4 devices, which meet your basic expectations, you suddenly see the same device as the first 4, but with expanded memory. How would you react? Suddenly, your standard level changes. Oh, you think, I could get an iPad with an expanded memory for this budget. Why should I settle for less? Your comparison criteria have changed. From that point on, you will compare all other devices to the one with the expanded memory. Your reference point has changed, and this may have a relationship in the way that you present or you offer things to clients. Somebody is asking a question here. Can I ask what the relationship between this and business analytics? Maybe I open late as I don't get the beginning. I'll tell you, it has absolutely nothing to do with business analytics. I mean, you may be in the wrong presentation. This is about the psychology of choice. Stephen, can you highlight, explain? Help?
Yeah, from my point, I'm not too sure. Maybe you just switched in the wrong session here.
Okay, I get you, she says. Okay. Okay, very good. All right, at least we know. How are we doing for time? Because I think we started about 10 minutes late, didn't we? Do we still have 20 minutes or so, or 15 minutes?
Yeah, 20 minutes to go, so all really well. Just go ahead.
Okay, hold on, because what is wrong? Now, this does not, there we go. So your reference point changes, so effectively making a choice a one-way street. Now, once your reference point changes, it's very, very difficult to go back. Now, one thing, of course, that is also very important when we make decisions is social proof. Social proof is if other people, it's really very simple. If other people use it, I will use it as well. Think a little bit about when, I don't know, Louis Vuitton and Hermes and all those posh companies, they launch a new product. Who are they going to advertise it with? With, I don't know, the Kardashians of this world and the celebrities of this world. You see, sort of a new tennis racket being used by Roger Federer. Okay, oh, well, Federer uses it, it must be good. That is the power of social proof. But it is not only associated with very rich and famous celebrities, but also, other companies, also other people, oh, well, if my friend who's an expert in IT buys that computer, okay, I mean, your friend may be famous, I don't know, then I think it is safe to buy it. So social proof is very important when we make, sort of decisions. I'm going to skip on this in the interest of time, but I want to talk a little bit about love, okay? Imagine the following scenario. Imagine the following scenario. All your friends have long been involved in relationships and you are tired of being the third wheel, okay? The gooseberry, as we call it in English, at every social gathering. After a few failed matchmaking attempts, you decide to try a dating website like Tinder, okay? So I know of Tinder. I don't use Tinder because I don't think my wife would be very happy if I do, but there you go. Soon you discover a new and exciting world that had previously been unknown to you. Suddenly, you have many fans and your dating possibilities become endless. This experience makes you feel truly attractive and desired. And without even noticing it, you become addicted. But make no mistake, guys, you are not addicted to love or dating. You are simply addicted to the idea of having many possibilities available to you. And this is another key message for you to take away. The basic human trait is that people love to have many options, even if they only exist in theory. We do that even when we get a job. Oh, well, if I don't get this job, well, I don't know, I can get another job. I can go and live in Paris. I can go in, I don't know, I can open my own business, or I can go and make wooden spoons in the Amazon forest. No, the truth is, the others are probably more of a long shot. So these exist really in theory, but in practice, they don't exist. Okay. So again, it is our love of choice. This intuitive assumption turns out to be illusion. The more options we have, guys, the less likely we are to make a decision at all. So it's time to talk a little bit about jam. because an experiment was carried out, and Professor Sheena Iyengar discusses this phenomenon in her book, The Art of Choosing. I will recommend a few books. I'll put them on the chat box at the end. I can't have so many windows open, but there you go. A grocery store presented customers with two different sampling stations, like a table with, I think one of my legs on my chair is a little bit loose. I'm sorry. So if I disappear, I will come back. And they had two separate, like tables. And one with 24 flavors of jam and the other one with only 6 options. The results of the study revealed that the availability of options resulted in 30% of consumers purchasing at least 1 jar of jam when they only had 6 options. The sampling station where they had 24 flavors had a conversion rate, in other words, sampling to buying, of only 3%. So while the larger selection attracted more people, more onlookers, more tasters, the smaller selection actually, and there you have it on screen, generated more sales. Now, when I put proposals together for clients, I normally try to limit the choices to about 3 to 5, certainly no more than 5. If there are more than 5 options, then I normally tend to put into 2 different proposals. I learned that from many years of putting proposals for my client says, oh, but I don't know which one to choose. So what happens there is it becomes analysis paralysis. They try to analyze what to choose, but it doesn't happen. You're giving them too much choice. A very good book by Barry Schwartz called The Paradox of Choice. I really recommend that book, which is very good. Let me give you another example from from business. What happened to Head and Shoulders when Head and Shoulders had 26 varieties of shampoo and they reduced it to 6? Their sales increased by 10%. And a 1950 study found that from 5 to 9 options provides the ideal range for understanding the whole picture. I still think that 9 is too much. Depends on what you're selling. The truth is that in most cases, 3 to 5 would make a range. So people have a strong desire for more options, but that really does not give us more choice. Oh, thank you very much. Somebody put it there Stephen put it there. Yes, the paradox of choice. Why more is less? Okay. Choice becomes more demanding, of course, rather than a Big Mac and fries when the stakes are a lot higher. Studies in the medical field reveal a fascinating look at the psyche. In one case, parents of a critically ill premature baby had to decide to take her off life support. They struggled much more with guilt and anger after she died than the parents whose doctors made that same decision for them. In the end, the issue may be, what are the costs of that choice? Okay. So why does this happen? We can look at it rationally and mathematically. Well, to be honest with you, if you have 2 choices, all right, you've got 50% of getting it wrong. If you have 5 choices, well, it increases to 20% certainty. And of course, if you have more than that, as you go up the scale, 14%, 10%, even less. Now, there are 2 ways in people actually, make choices. And Barry Schwartz actually calls them satisficers and the maximizers. I'm a maximizer generally. I just go and I'm a satisficer. Sorry, I just go and I make a choice. If it's good, it's good. Fine. I'm not going to spend half my life analyzing something. The maximizers are the people who go in there and they analyze every possibility. And at the end of the day, they spend so much time making a decision that when it is the wrong decision, it is the maximizers who feel much worse than the satisficers like me. Okay, well, I've got 2, I'll choose one. Okay, fine. I didn't give it too much thought. If I messed it up, I messed it up. Okay, so human cognitive ability really cannot efficiently compare more than 5 options. So most of us will start looking at the first few options and then stop. Guys, when you do a Google search, do you really go past the first page when you look, unless you're looking for something extremely specific? Look at airlines. You know, they give you the, you know, the I am Miles card. I mean, I got my British Airways one. What do you have? Bronze, silver, and gold. You have three. If they start introducing, well, they have the blue one, but the blue one gives you nothing. So at least you know what the options are there. Okay. But if it comes very complex, you don't understand, it just loses its value. And think of that when you think of your clients. I'm going to give you, you know, sort of, I want to talk about two more things. Stephen, how we're doing for time? Please
We're
tell
running
me.
a bit over in normal sessions, but it's 10 to end. But yeah.
Okay,
I'm
going to give you one, you know, sort of. Then let me skip to the other example, because I want to, yeah, I want to give you an example here of a very, very famous magazine that you saw here. And this magazine offered, The Economist, as you can see, offered these three options. 59 for a sub to the online version, 125 for a sub to the print magazine only, and 125 again for both. And you may say, you know, hey, wait a minute, you know, what's this all about? Why do I get 125 for the print subscription, and then I get 125 for the print and web? Hey, print and web, much better. I'm getting the web version for, you know, sort of for free. So why on earth would anybody want that? And you may ask yourself, you know, why did they put it? Well, research was carried out amongst 100 MIT, you know, sort of students, and these were the results. 16% of the people chose the digital version, 84% chose the combo version, but nobody in that group of 100 people chose the print only. So the question is, why would you pay the same amount for less? Here's the thing. If you had three options and one of them had zero market share, like in this case, would you keep it? Of course not. But the thing here is slightly different. Oops. There we go. When the magazine eliminated the print-only option, 68 students, 68%, chose the less expensive online option, and only 32 chose the costlier two-version option. If the students had been making a rational decision purely based on facts, such a difference would not have existed. The combined price clearly made the print version virtually free. So two messages on this. Number one is what we call the relativity effect. Relativity effect when making choices is by introducing a choice that has apparent less value, it increases the perceived value of the other choices. So that's number one. That's why companies do it, okay? Because it really just drives people, if you want to, they are manipulating you in a way, I suppose, to make other offers be or at least perceived to be seen a little bit more more attractive. It's the same with small, medium, and large menus and drinks at fast food restaurants. Absolutely correct, says Sheetal, because when you go to McDonald's and you say, would you like a medium meal or a large meal or a small meal? Yeah, the large meal, you get only 5 more chips or something like that, 6, I don't know, I've never counted them. The burger is the same size, and then they give you a bucket of Coca-Cola or mineral water. Nobody drinks that much mineral water. You don't need that much mineral water unless you're going to do your laundry. So yes, absolutely correct. Yes. So and then and number two is it is a nudge. Yes, it is a nudge. Luis is referencing a book by Stephen Thaler called Nudge. Very good book. I recommend it. Be careful, therefore, about your context for comparison. I want to end this presentation with a couple of things. Number one is the power of emotions. People say that, well, I'm a very rational buyer. No, we are all emotional creatures. When we make a purchasing decision or any kind of decision, our initial decision is mostly driven by emotion. What we try to do then is justify it rationally, okay? You go to a car dealership, you've got £15,000 to spend. Okay, eventually the car dealer, who's very good, says, well, but if you get this car, you get the leather seats. Listen, I wouldn't have leather seats at home in my sofa, but anyway, yeah, the leather seats and then the GPS and, and convertible and this and that, the other. So you end up spending £25,000 instead of your initial 15,000. Well, first of all, I would have to explain it to my wife, who will be none too pleased. But number two, then I would have to rationalize it myself. Geez, man, I spent all that money and I really don't need the convertible. I don't really need the great GPS because I have a mobile phone with Waze. And that is when something called buyer's remorse kicks in. You're in a position where you fail to be able to justify rationally a decision that you took emotionally. And this is important for you to understand the emotional position of your client, of anybody that you are helping to make a decision. And last but not least, there is the power of gut feel or intuition. You say, well, you know what? Yes, this, ticks all the boxes. It's great quality. It's got warranty, but yeah, it has this je ne sais quoi. I'm not so sure about it. That's your gut feel. Okay. And there's one thing that gut feel has. It will always act in your best interest. This is a fascinating subject. There's a lot more to it. We have covered in 45 minutes what I would normally cover in probably 3 months or something like that. So I am very grateful for all of your participation. I will now leave the floor open for any questions. Thank you very much. Oh, there it says, Stephen is saying.
Exactly. So I just wanted to say, like, we're a bit over time, but I'm giving you a bit more time here. So please put any questions that you have.
I'm here. I don't have to go anyway. I've got a little bit more time.
All right.
So if it's because of me, we're fine. Yeah.
All right, lovely. So everyone, please put your questions in the Q&A box. You have it at the bottom of the screen. It just helps us to go through it a bit easier.
Thank you, Sheetal. That's very, very kind of you. Very kind of you. Ian Gar. That's one book I recommend. How can you sell environment care? And the other one is The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz that Stephen kindly put on the chat box earlier on. How can you sell environment care? In other words, I assume that what you're asking me is, Luis, is how can we get sell in a rather oblique way? I think it's a question as well. First of all, the emotional appeal. I think that it is very difficult to sell environmental care on a rational basis. Oh, the 1 degree centigrade that the temperature is going up, etc., etc., etc. Unfortunately, data and figures don't sell, guys. That is the rule of data and figures. They're unemotional, they're bland, but stories sell. And I think that environmental care has to be sold with good stories, stories of real people, things that are affecting real people. Make a choice. You make that choice. Well, how will that affect your grandchildren? How will that affect your children? How does that affect your, sort of your wife? How do you think you're going to be, your taxes are going to be affected 2 or 3 years from now when we have to clean up all the mess? You're going to be paying more. So, a very quick, dirty response. But I think that the emotional appeal for that is very strong. A question: how to tackle paralysis of analysis and be a smart, quick decision taker in personal and professional space? Thanks. Sometimes decisions cannot be taken quickly. But somebody said the worst thing, there is one worse thing than a bad decision, and that is no decision. And I've worked with many teams where people go meetings after meetings after meetings. And, when a meeting takes more time than solving the problem, the meetings become more important than the problem, and nobody resolves anything. The only thing they agree upon is to have another meeting. And I'm not very good at that, to be honest with you. So it's a question of saying, right, guys, this is a problem. It really takes somebody to say, right, we need to make a decision. These are the options that we have. And I normally try to put it down to 3 options and take the best and take the, sort of the outliers out of the, out to the picture. It is a decision, not necessarily a quick decision. And at times you have to decide and see and understand who is in a position to make that decision. I have been in many sales meetings with clients, and I've been talking to the wrong people. I spent 2 hours, sitting in front of people who were so junior, and I was trying there to sell them a £500,000 deal. They didn't have the the authority to make a decision. So make sure that you're talking to the people who do have the power to make the decision. Thank you, Lynette. I hope I can see you again. Question, sorry, I've just answered that. See you, please share the name of books. One is The Paradox of Choice. The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. And the other one I wrote it, Schwartz, no, sorry. Sorry, I've got a new keyboard because just before this session, I spilled coffee all over my keyboard, so I had to change. The decision maker is the man, money, authority, and need. Yeah, money, authority, and need. Yes, to a degree, I agree. Yes, and the other one was the art of choosing. I think it's called Choosing by Sheena E.N. Gar. I don't know what I'm writing here. No, caps lock. No, there we go. Oof. And Nudge is the other one. I think Greece was Nudge by Richard Taylor or Thaler. I don't know how the Americans call him. There we go. Good. Thank you very much to all of you. Are there any other questions, queries, grievances, complaints, etc., from from others? Oh, we have 4 questions in the QA box. Where do I see it? Oh, Q&A. Oh, right. I see. I'm sorry. Hold on. How can we consciously control our behavior so that we are not affected by emotions and the choices around us? You can't, and you shouldn't. You should not. Don't try to make decisions that are purely rational and totally unemotional. It's against human nature. The only people who can actually do that, and I have met people and worked with people who are like that, and a lot of studies have been carried out, is people who are on the spectrum, people who are, suffer from Asperger's syndrome, which is the adult form of autism. These people, or many of them, a great number of these people, they lack that emotional aspect when they make decisions that are purely rational. Don't believe me? Look at the film Rain Man. Okay, a very interesting part when he drops the what do you call it, the toothpicks on the floor, and immediately there are 234 ones. But what does that mean emotionally? Incredible. But please, no, don't take the emotions, because other people do not take them out, or of the picture. Could you please give us a hold on? Of how you've used the psychology of choice during your consulting project. I use them, all the time. I use them when we negotiate. I use them when we make, to make sure that, whether it is I who drops the first anchor or it is not me who drops the first anchor. When people say, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I think that's too expensive." Okay, fine. You have to respect that. My question to them is, really, compared to what? What is the comparison? What is the frame of reference, that you're using? So I strongly advise you to read a lot on that. As I say, there is probably not one single negotiation or consulting meeting that I don't use that. I ask questions. I look at why people feel like that. The emotional part for me is very important. What is your one statement advice on selling your skills? Make sure that you know your stuff, and make sure that you can back it up. That is really, because it's all about credibility at the end of the day. You have the skills, back them up. And if you don't know something, put your hand up. I'll give you a very good example to be very quick. A few months ago, somebody came and said, "Oh, Robert, we want you to do a project for us." It was a phenomenal amount of money. I said, "Okay, what's the project?" They told me what it was. I said, "Sorry, but that's not my core competencies." I said, "Well, but I'm sure you'll figure it out." Yeah, but this is not about figuring something out. This is about you telling me to play competencies that are not my core competencies. And I had to back out. I think the client, in the end, had a lot more respect for me saying, "Sorry, I cannot help you because I would not be doing you a favor and I can't take your money." Then if I had done it and probably made a complete hash out of it. So honesty and know your stuff, and learn that no is an answer. How do you marry the fact that client feels the need to have control over choices, but the more choices you give it works adversely? I work in the consulting sector and I can't say, yes, it just happens all the time. "Oh yeah, but we want more choices." Then you give them more choices and they can't choose. You have to narrow it down. I always ask them, it's all about, a lot of things are going through my mind to answer that question. First of all, social styles. What is their styles? Are they drivers? Are they analytical? Are they amiable? Are they, what do you want to give? What are they looking for in the value proposition? So understand them. I really try to make sure that I understand what makes them tick, and I try to leave out things that for them are unimportant. And what you should focus, and a little bit answering the previous question on sales skills, is benefits, not features. Oh, this has an X 1.2 processor. Nobody gives a carrot what it has. What can it do for me? What is in it for me? And I normally try, when the client says, oh, but Robert, can we do this? Can we? I said, well, if you do that, then these are the consequences. A typical example, and I'll answer the next question with this one. Can you train people to make better decisions? Yes. Sometimes, clients come and say to me, well, can we have this, can you knock £100,000 off the, not 100,000, but say 10,000 pounds off the price? I said, yes, absolutely, I can. The moment that you say yes, your clients already say, oh, well, he said yes. Okay, whoa, wait a minute, we're onto something here. But then comes the killer question. All right, but what's going to give? I said, what do you mean? Yes, I mean, I'll knock £10,000 off. I haven't got a problem with that. Okay, but you've got to sacrifice something for that. Quality, time to completion, number of errors. You tell me. What you're doing is I'm putting the onus of responsibility back on the client. So yeah, I'll give you the 10,000 quid, but discount. But you're not going to get the same as you did for 100,000 quid for 90,000 quid. Fine. So, okay, so what shall we cut out? What's going to give? Emotions that really matter in order to make decisions, while purchasing anything. How can we actually spend wisely, like not falling into a trap? Well, look, even very, very skilled, people, fall into the trap, because sometimes we buy things for the wrong reasons. You buy a car not because of its performance. You buy a car because, oh, it's going to make me look cool, for example, and then the car breaks down. You're going to be pretty stupid to do that, admittedly. I think that, spending wisely is about asking, do I need this? Rather than do I want this? And that is the difference. Wants are emotional and needs are rational. Nobody can claim that they need a Rolex. You may claim that you want a Rolex, but it is not a need. So one of the things that I say, do I want this or do I need this? Do I want the convertible Mercedes or do I really need this? Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. And if you really go on needs, you will end up living a very frugal life. I mean, we are free to live the life that we want, but you can't live your life purely based on needs if you can afford to have, a few wants. So spend wisely. Look at what you need versus what you want, I think is my quick advice. We have a question where one's intuition can be influenced by any of the biases. Can one's intuition be influenced? Yes, absolutely. How can we expand the business and maintain business? Lynette, I would love to answer that question, but I think we're going to have to leave that for another session. It's just a very broad question. I shared the book's name. Thank you very much, Joanna, for your question, for your comment. Emotions that really matters in order to make decisions while purchasing, and how can we actually spend wisely? Oh, yeah, well, that's what I've just answered. Yes, nudge, that's the book by Richard Thaler, which I recommended. Yep, I think I put it up at the top. So many books, thanks. Yes, and there's more. It is your backstage, a beautiful. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I am in my study and backstage. It's no, it's my dining room. I'm working from home, actually. Thanks. Yes, you're right. Always think first before spending. Guys, you have been absolutely brilliant. I cannot thank you enough for all the wonderful, wonderful questions. I really, well, it's not a lesson, more like sharing my experience and my thoughts. I learned just as much from my students as hopefully they learned from me. You've been absolutely brilliant.